From ad woman to turnaround chief, Sharon Price John's climb to Chief President Bear has been one stuffed with passion and tenacity. The Build-A-Bear CEO joins me to talk about how she stitched together careers in retail and advertising to rejuvenate one of the children's world's most iconic brands. Sharon, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So the story of how you got started in New York City is pretty amazing. I love this story. You booked a one-way ticket to the city, 15 interviews in 1 week, and then you convinced a company to hire you after a competitive salary offer that you made them. That's a pretty gutsy move, right? What gave you the courage to come all the way to New York City and do that from Knoxville, Tennessee?
Well, I really didn't have, I guess I didn't really know that it was so ambitious.
Yeah.
I was more practical in the thought process that I only have a week's vacation from the job that I was working at. And if I'm going to go to New York for a week, I'm going to make it as productive as possible.
Right.
So I thought I could do 3 interviews in a week. I mean, it's just the naivete. Sometimes it's better that you don't know just how difficult the task that you're putting in front of you could be. I thought the island was small. How hard could it be? How hard could it be to navigate New York City? It's the truth.
Being young has its advantages, I feel like. Well, you've been tasked with a major turnaround effort for Build-A-Bear, taking it from a $50 million loss in 2012, and you returned it to profitability in your most recent quarter. All the while cutting costs and increasing sales, which is cutting stores rather, and increasing sales, which is pretty incredible. How do you, leading from the top, try to keep the perfect balance between keeping employees focused on giving a great customer experience, but also making sure your company doesn't kind of fall into the same situation that it did during the depths of the financial crisis?
That's a really good question. I think that the natural state of Build-A-Bear is to be consumer-centric, particularly when you get to the retail side. Our bear builders are some of the best in the business. They really enjoy everything that they do with children every day, and they get the underlying mission of Build-A-Bear. So I don't believe, even if I wanted to change that portion of the culture, that I would be successful at it. Although I want to keep that part of the culture. The part that we needed to change was some of the thought process that was probably keeping us stuck in that 2008 think. There was a lack of realization even at that level, but sometimes even more embedded in the headquarters, that we weren't having the same top lines that we were having, and so the money wasn't flowing through, and we had to have some real shifts in the way we thought about business. We put together a 3-pronged strategy that people really understood and got their heads wrapped around and were focused on. And it was important to give one of those strategies the ability for the actual people in Build-A-Bear the ability to feel like they were making a difference.
Right.
So it was an optimization of real estate, a resetting of the consumer value equation, which was really about stopping the discounting and being more brand building. But third, it was rationalizing expenses. And I made people feel like that they really did have some impact on saving that dollar.
And I feel like that might be a more challenging part of it, kind of bringing those things down to every level of the company, right?
Yeah, sometimes it can be. I think when you're trying to create change, it's important for people to understand what the path would be if they don't change.
Right.
That's a really critical part in creating change in your personal life, and as well as with corporations.
Right.
At the same time, once you paint that picture of what will happen if you continue to lose $40 or $50 million every single year, and they really get a clear idea that we might not be in business,
right.
Then you can insert the plan to change, and people tend to be a little more open to trying
more accepting. Yeah. Well, you have a lot of experience in this kind of realm with the turnaround effort. You came to Build-A-Bear after your most recent career at Stride Right Children's Group, right? Where you led a turnaround there. With a brand like Build-A-Bear, though, it's a little bit different. What's the hardest part about leading a turnaround from the C-suite there?
I think that it's actually a little easier when you're at the CEO level versus the president at a divisional level. Because at a divisional level of a large corporation like Wolverine Worldwide, which is where Stride Right was, you're just one of a number of selections of different divisions that may or may not win the funds to get X, Y, or Z done. My sole responsibility at Build-A-Bear was to bring it back to profitability and then return it to top line sales growth. And that was what I had the complete support from the board to do.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Where did you look to inspiration when you came to Build-A-Bear then? I mean, Starbucks led kind of a similar turnaround effort as far as closing stores to kind of decrease that gap. Was there a certain place that you looked, certain leaders that you looked to when you took this job?
I've been really fortunate to have quite a few outstanding CEOs as I've climbed the ladder in a number of multi-billion-dollar companies, and I learned a lot from them along the way. I think, though, the biggest opportunity for Build-A-Bear was to recognize that the brand was so much more powerful than even the company and the employees realized. They were so much bigger and have so much more potential than just a retail store. And once people understood that, what we mean to people from a loyalty perspective, from an emotional engagement perspective, from an awareness perspective, I think that started to get people to believe that there's a future beyond what we currently are. And I've been in companies where we've made those changes in the past.
Okay. Once you decided to pursue a business degree in Columbia in the early 90s, things moved pretty quickly for you. You worked at, I guess in terms of climbing the ranks, at Mattel and Hasbro before you eventually came to Build-A-Bear. What's your biggest piece of advice for other people kind of looking to climb that career ladder? You've seen it all. What is your biggest piece of advice?
Well, I think that it goes all the way back to your first question of why did I end up going to New York? I think you have to be willing to take a chance. And sometimes doing too much research can keep you from taking that chance.
Absolutely.
A little bit of,
too much.
of naivete might be helpful in doing that. And I made a lot of choices in my life more in terms of not what could happen in a bad way, but thinking about it like, if I don't do this, what could happen? Sort of the same thing that I end up doing when I'm trying to create change inside of corporations.
That's great advice. Sharon Price John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.